Good afternoon and welcome everyone to today's presentation. My name is Brian Skank and I'm proudly serving as your Cayuga County Sheriff. In a moment, I'll give you a little bit more about me and introduce all of my fellow members of the Sheriff's Office that are joining me today to my left. For those of you in attendance here at the Cayuga Community College Auditorium, I'd like to welcome you again and thank you for attending with us in person. And to those of you that are attending virtually, I appreciate you taking the time to log in and watch the presentation. Our presentation today is being broadcast live via YouTube to our Cayuga County Sheriff's Office YouTube page, as well as by the Harriet Tubman Center for Justice and Peace, live streamed to their Facebook page. If you're attending virtually and would like to access the slides, you can actually access the slides online on our website by going to cayugasheriff.com and follow the left side of the page to the bottom. You'll see community presentation and a picture of the slides. If you click on that, you'll have access to the slides from wherever you're watching the presentation. It might be a little easier. You may not be able to make that out as easy by watching it, but hopefully we can see those here on the screen. I'd like to first thank Detective Lieutenant Fred Cornelius, who we'll meet later today, who spent a lot of time putting our slide presentation together with all of our help. He put a lot of time and effort into this, and I want to make sure that I thank Fred. So great job, Fred. Thank you for all the work you did on it. Today's event was planned in collaboration with our community partners that include the Harriet Tubman Center for Justice and Peace, our local chapter of the NAACP, and the Auburn Human Rights Commission. So we thank them for their partnership. And representing some of those agencies today, we do have some people in attendance that I would like to acknowledge. From the Harriet Tubman Center for Justice and Peace, we have Jack Hardy, we have Dr. Lou Lombardo, we have Steve Webster, we have organization chairman Bill Berry, and Lisa Brennan. And I want to give a special thanks to Lisa for her technical help live streaming our event today on Facebook. We appreciate that. Thank you, Lisa. And for her help designing flyers for not only this presentation, but some other community outreach events that we've partnered on in the past. I appreciate all of the help. So welcome all of you. I'd also like to welcome members of the local NAACP chapter that I believe will be joining us here in a little bit, Dr. Rhoda Overstreet Wilson, Brian Muldrow, and Anthony Jones. And from the Auburn Human Rights Commission, represented today here by Joe Leogrand. Welcome, Joe. Thank you for coming. And I believe we will be joined by Bob Ellison and Jill DeBrouwer during the presentation. I'd also like to acknowledge Cayuga County Legislator Tricia Kerr for joining us today. Thank you, Legislator Kerr, for being with us here in person. We're also joined by Auburn Police Chief Sean Butler, who I can't thank enough for assisting us in our law enforcement efforts, as well as all of the men and women of the Auburn Police Department. We appreciate our partnership. Thank you, Chief. As all of you are likely aware, Chief Butler gave a similar presentation along with his staff a few weeks ago. And today you're going to find a number of similarities between our departments, and you'll also find a number of things that are different just due to the type of agencies that we have. One similarity that you will not see today is I'm not going to announce my retirement like Chief Butler did in his presentation. I'm here to stay for a little bit longer, but I will not be announcing my retirement today. But we're going to miss the chief and certainly wish him the best when he leaves us next year. So it's going to be a great loss to our community and to our Sheriff's Office, the partnership. And last but not least, also in attendance, we have Deputy Supervisor Tony Gacciardi from the town of Owasco. Thank you, Mr. Gacciardi, for being here today. We appreciate you coming out and joining us. I'd like to say a quick thank you to the Cayuga Community College for allowing us to use the auditorium today. We appreciate the opportunity to use this space that allows us to spread out and social distance and still have some people in attendance. I'd also like to thank the town of Owasco for assisting us with some technical support and some equipment that allows us to live stream this today. So thank you also to the town of Owasco. Our flyer for today's presentation noted that we would follow the theme, this is what we do, and this is how we do it. We've added another bullet, as you can see on the screen, right at the beginning at the bottom. That bullet is, this is who we are. I'm excited and proud to not only provide information about what we do and how we do it, but to introduce you to our administrative team that's joining me here to my left and show you what the 165 plus members of our sheriff's office, your sheriff's office, do every day. I could not accomplish my job without them. So moving forward, next slide, the members of our administration that I want to introduce. With me today, to my immediate left, is Detective Lieutenant Fred Cornelius. He oversees our detective division. To his left is Under Sheriff Steve Smith. To his left is Chief Custody Officer Robert Elser. Oversees our jail division. To his left is Captain John Mack, who oversees the jail as well. To his left is our Road Patrol Lieutenant Michael Wellauer, who oversees our Road Patrol division. And moving to the left is Lieutenant Gary Dennis, who's lieutenant within our custody division. That's the jail. And to his left is Lieutenant Dave Massey, who is also the lieutenant in the jail. So I'd like to welcome them here with me today. They're going to come up in a little bit and speak about their individual divisions. As I mentioned at the beginning, I'm the current sheriff of Cayuga County, overseeing your sheriff's office. I say that because this office belongs to you, each of you. It's not my sheriff's office. It's not our sheriff's office up here on the stage. It's your sheriff's office. It's an elected position, and I'm currently serving in year 2 of a 4-year term. Sheriffs have been the conservators of the peace in our county since 1799. And it is an honor for me to serve as your 59th sheriff, having followed 58 other sheriffs since 1799 in Cayuga County. I currently have 23 years of experience with your sheriff's office, and I worked my way through the ranks of our Road Patrol division before running for this office in 2018. So moving forward, we are hoping to get through our presentation and allow enough time for questions today. Here in the auditorium, we passed out some note cards that you'll see on the screen there. Everybody should have them. If you don't, if you raise your hand, we'll get you some. We're hoping that during the presentation, we can save questions till the end. And if you have any questions that you'd like to jot down on the card so you don't forget to save those, we'll try to address those at the end of the presentation. So if you could hold those to the end, we would appreciate it. And at that time, we'll give you the opportunity to ask those in person. You can also jot down a question with your contact information. If you'd rather that we answered that at a later time, we can do that as well. For those of you joining us online today, you can submit questions during the presentation to the email address sheriff@cayugacounty.us. If you submit your question there, hopefully we can answer that at the end of the presentation. If we run out of time and cannot answer it during the presentation, then we will answer that in the future. So provide your contact information with the email and your question. And again, if we can't address it today, we'll make sure that we do that in the future. Before I click ahead, I'm going to talk a little bit about the demographics of our county, but I just wanted to focus on this slide for a minute. To the left, you'll see a picture of our county. And our agency is unique in that we serve a number of individual jurisdictions. We actually serve 23 towns and 9 villages in Cayuga County. So that can be somewhat challenging at times. We're dealing with 23 different courts and even more if you include some of the village courts that exist, but it's a pretty expansive jurisdiction that we cover. And if you're familiar with the layout of our county spreads from all the way from Lake Ontario to the north to our southern borders with Portland and Tompkins County to the south. Very long county that can be challenging to cover at times, with all of Owasco Lake that falls within the middle of our county that we need to work around as well. So a little overview, demographics of our county. We broke this down all the way to the left of the slide. You're going to see the county as a whole, 691 square miles. These are land miles. This doesn't include our lakes, with a population of 76,576. Some demographics as it relates to race countywide and our poverty rate at the bottom. This information is taken from the 2019 census. There is a link at the bottom of the slide, which is a little difficult to see, but if you want to go to that link, you can find more information in the future. In the center gives you the demographics of the city of Auburn. If we were to take that out of the county, those are the demographics for the city. Also taken from the 2019 census data. And all the way to the right, if you remove the city from the county as a whole, that gives you an idea of what we're looking at for demographics in the jurisdiction that we primarily work in. Our agency, the Sheriff's Office, we do overlap. We do have jurisdiction in the city, but we're not a primary law enforcement agency. Obviously, the city of Auburn, so they provide the primary law enforcement services to that area. So that gives you some information relevant to demographics. The next slide is our mission statement. When I took office early last year in 2019, one of the first things that I wanted to do was rework our mission statement. And the members of my administrative team and I wrote this mission statement. This is the one that we had operated under prior, but I take a lot of pride in what this mission statement says. We are driven by our mission, and that's something that I expect, and I know my administrative team expects us to be driven by. I'm very proud of this statement, and our statement reads: the mission of the Cayuga County Sheriff's Office is to secure and maintain a safe community and enhance the quality of life of all citizens by providing responsive, caring, unbiased, and professional law enforcement, custody, correctional, security, and civil law enforcement services. The Sheriff's Office is committed to utilizing community partnerships to accomplish this mission and to maintain the trust and respect of those we serve. There's a number of areas of that mission statement that I like to read and highlight for good reason, but we're here to secure and maintain a safe community for all citizens in our community. That's everybody. And we're committed to utilizing community partnerships to do that. And I think that we've demonstrated that's what we want to do. I'd also like to add along with this slide our values that come from our general orders. Our values include that we value human life and dignity. We value and respect human life and the dignity of all people, and will take whatever action necessary to ensure the protection and preservation. We also value the Constitution. We value and are committed to upholding and defending the rights guaranteed to individuals by the Constitution of the United States of America and the state of New York. Another value, our community. We value the partnerships formed between Cayuga County Sheriff's Office and the community that we serve, and we are committed to the enhancement of the quality of life of our neighborhoods. And finally, character. As representatives of the Cayuga County Sheriff's Office, we recognize that we are perceived to be in a position of authority, and that such position is dependent upon public trust. We pledge to honesty, integrity, truthfulness in both personal and our professional life. These are very important, again, to me and our administrative staff, as well as the members of our Sheriff's Office, and anything less is unacceptable. So with that, I'm going to turn, the next slide will be under Sheriff Steve Smith.
Good afternoon, everybody. Steve Smith, I'm the undersheriff. I've also been with the department for 23 years. And as same as Brian, I worked in the patrol division and detective division before Brian appointed me undersheriff. So I'm going to start by talking a little bit about our recruitment efforts. Pretty quick about it, but we've got a team of people who volunteered to assist us with recruitment efforts. They go to different areas to do recruitment. They come up with ideas and strategies for that. Obviously, this year has kind of put a damper on our in-person recruiting efforts for obvious reasons. But in the past, we've been to college and high school job fairs. We've set up tables at the Finger Lakes Mall. We've also been to the YMCA. And in 2019, the Auburn Police Department has their National Night Out. I'd like to thank Chief Butler and his staff for allowing us to go to their National Night Out. It was a great place for us to recruit. Biggest reason is we had the opportunity to sit down with people from a lot of different areas of the community and talk about the job, answer questions. And then we actually signed people up for our civil service exams right on the spot. We had set up on computers, so just sign up right there. And it was very successful. We'd like to continue doing those types of things. Another thing we've done at our facility is we've done an open house. So last time, 2 times we recruited, put on prior to a test, put on a recruitment, we've had an open house, and it's been very well attended. We've had, for the custody division as well as the patrol division, we open up our front conference room. People come in, they can talk to us about the job that they're looking at. We give them a tour through the facility, whether it's the jail or the patrol division or our training center. We give them an opportunity to take a look at our facility and answer any questions they have. And again, with that, we're able to sign up. We had members of our civil service, county civil service on site, with computer setup, electronic signups right on the spot, so we could get people into the exams if they were interested. But it gave them a chance to talk to us a little bit before they signed up. If they were in for it, then we signed them right up there. Something that we've used very successfully, also social media, mostly Facebook. We hope to expand in some other areas of social media in the near future, but one of the most useful things we've used is posts on our Facebook page. Currently, we have 10,480 people who either like or follow our Facebook page. So that's pushing things out to people. So that's very important. The last 28 days, I've looked it up, and we've reached 94,000 people in the last 28 days for our Facebook page alone. That's incredible. That's something that's come up in recent past, and we use it to its full extent. It gives us a huge audience that goes beyond the borders of Cayuga County, so we can get more people. And the last thing that we do, and this is just kind of something that happens, we don't really organize this, but our officers are constantly interacting with the community. And if anybody shows an interest in police work or custody work or anything like that, our officers are always willing to talk to people they can come in contact with about that. And we hope to push forward that a little bit too. We've talked about having some time cards that have recruiting information on that our officers could actually pass out to people. So I'm going to move on to our selection process. Our selection process starts with the civil service exam. So once we get them signed up through recruiting or however, if they just hear however, we get the test schedule. The state actually schedules the tests. They schedule for all the different standard civil service exams, and then we request them locally when we need them. So if we have a need for police officers, we look at the state is offering tests at a specific time. We'll ask our local civil service to hold that test. The passing score for that test is 70%. So anybody over 70%, we receive those results, and they come back to us in a banded ranks between 195, 95 to 90, 95 to 90, and so forth, down to 70. And the most important thing about that, it's an involved process, which I'm sure some of you are aware of, but what it does is it limits us. We can only hire according to civil service laws, which for the most part is the highest scoring people on that list. So if you move on from the list and you get to the next step, we have a physical agility exam. Those standards are set locally, and it's something we do review periodically to make sure that they're being used properly, that we're not we're getting the best candidates. So one of the things we've done to help with the physical agility part of it, because we have lost people through that, good people we've lost to the physical agility, is we've held a couple of special physical agility tryouts. So prior to actually taking the test, we've had some of our people who are trained for personal training. They'll get together with candidates that are interested. If they're signed up, they've passed, and they're ready to take the physical agility, we'll give them a chance to come in and try out the test. They'll go through the whole test with them, and it might give them a chance to see where they might be a little bit low and need to make some improvement. So that gives them an opportunity to focus on an area that they need to improve to make sure that they get to that physical agility exam. If you get through that process, the next is the background process. This is a very extensive progress. It's something that I was involved in for many years as a detective. The detective division handles the background investigations. It's a very complete, in-depth investigation of a candidate's personal history. It involves arrest history, traffic history, educational, employment, military. We'll do interviews with past employers, neighbors, friends, family, roommates, anybody that we can talk to find out what this person's like and try to get an idea of who they are. If you part of the background process is the psychological exam. So that's conducted by a group that we work with, and they have a specialty in psychology for pre-employment examinations of candidates for law enforcement. one of their main things, so that they are a good resource for us to use them a lot. Also, they have to pass a medical exam, drug testing, and then go through fingerprinting. Fingerprinting basically is the best way to determine the history of somebody leaving something out. It's make sure we've touched everything that we can. So if you get through all of that, the very few finalists come in for a panel interview, and that's with our command staff. We sit in a room and we ask them questions. We talk about how they would handle certain things, police-related issues. We ask them about their history a little bit. We talk to them about their past employment, things like that, and just try to get a gauge on who they are and what they're going to be like as a police officer or a customer. And then we select from those few. That's about it for the selection process. I'm going to turn it over now to Lieutenant Wildauer, and he's going to talk a little bit about the patrol division.
Thank you for joining us today. As they said, my name is Mike Wellauer, born and raised in Cayuga County. This month, myself and Detective Lieutenant Cornelius reach our 25th year. So it's a big milestone. I've spent the last 14 years in my current position. So my responsibility includes the road patrol, probably one of the most visible aspects of the sheriff's office. Hopefully, not in your rearview mirror, with flashing lights and sirens. Our road patrol staffs Cayuga County 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We do that with 26 sworn police officers. Myself as the lieutenant manages the road patrol administratively. We have 4 sergeants, each assigned to one shift, and the 5th sergeant, we'll talk about in a minute, works in our other division. Each sergeant is responsible for one shift. We have 4 shifts. I want to take just a minute. We have 4 shifts at the sheriff's office. Our A-line shift works from midnight to 8 in the morning. Staffed with a sergeant, a corporal, and typically 2 or 3 deputies. Because of the length and distance in our county, our A-line, for half their shift, those 2 deputies ride in the same patrol vehicle. And we have agreed with the state police, who we share jurisdiction with, on our A-line shift. We switch week to week, north and south, allowing us to cover the north end of the county one week, and they cover the south, and then we switch the following week. And that allows the county to have better coverage on our overnight. Our B-line shift runs from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., staffed by a sergeant, and typically, if we're full staff, 5 deputies. And then we have our C-line shift, which is 4 p.m. to midnight. Again, a sergeant and 5 deputies. And then our 4th shift is a split. They do 2 day shifts and 2 evening shifts, covering when the other 2 shifts are on leave. So that's 19 deputies and 4 sergeants covering Cayuga County 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Right now, we're down 5 members of the road patrol. So right now, we're covering that with 14 people. I should mention that one of the deputies in our list is assigned to BOCES. We provide an SRO for BOCES 12 months out of the year. One of the things I want to mention real quick about our officers, and this includes our detectives, is that we oftentimes perform other duties in addition to our full-time responsibility. Our officers oftentimes have interest in things like K9, evidence tech, accident reconstruction, our tactical unit, child safety seats, some of our other specialty units like our snowmobiles and our ATVs. So all the members of the road patrol that are here covering these shifts typically also have other things that they train for and they specialize in, which we would call upon when we need them. We are the primary response to the public for a wide range, from crimes in progress, investigations, even assistance to the public in things like VIN verifications. Our members also are first aid trained as first responders. So in addition to providing first aid, if we need to on the scene, we'll also respond to medical calls. All of our members carry and are trained in the use of naloxone, which combats opioid overdoses. Since 2015, when we began that program, we've used opioid overdose naloxone 24 times. As a bit of a background, 8 of those times were this year alone. In addition, most of our cars, all of our shifts and most of our cars are equipped with AEDs. We've used our AEDs 3 times this year alone, once yesterday. So our officers not only provide law enforcement response, but we also provide and assist the community with some first aid response in the time it takes for an ambulance or an EMT to get there. These deputies that you see on an average, we're handling roughly 1,400 calls a month, 1,400 calls for service. One of the other things I'm responsible for is our civil division. That 5th sergeant that I mentioned is assigned downtown. And part of his responsibility is to assist and work with our civil division. We have 2 civil enforcement officers work out of the historic old post office downtown. On an average month, we serve 232 civil papers, process 18 evictions. Right now, as you've probably seen, our evictions are on hold due to the governor's executive orders. But in a typical month, we would process 18 evictions, 55 income executions, and 50 family court orders. We bring in close to $90,000 in an average month in receipts, 10,000 of which is revenue for the county. That sergeant that I mentioned, he assists them. He does a lot of civil papers out in the field, north to south. He does a lot of the evictions, and he interacts with our other shifts so that they can also serve some of those papers that we need to get out and get served. In addition, he supervises our special patrol officers downtown. We have 37 part-time special patrol officers. 10 of them are assigned to the county office building, and 27 of them are assigned between the courthouse and the historic old post office, providing security. Security not only to the public, to the employees and those that are coming in for services. In order for us to hire a special patrol officer under New York state law, they have to be a retired police officer or peace officer in order for us to hire them. Currently, out of those 37, we have 6 vacancies that we're in the process of filling. I mentioned that a lot of our deputies and detectives have other things they do in addition to their full-time duties. Some of the things that we provide are seasonal patrols. We have 3 ATVs, 3 snowmobiles, and we have 5 boats. And during the summer months, we typically have them out on Cayuga Lake, Owasco Lake, the Seneca River and Cross Lake, Lake Ontario, and occasionally on Skinny Atlas Lake. Now, like I said, most of our deputies or detectives fill some of those roles, but in addition, on our navigation, typically we hire up to 25 part-time seasonal officers and civilians that staff our navigation patrol. I'm not advancing the slides as quickly as I'm speaking. I apologize for that. Something I want to touch on for a minute is our tactical response unit. A lot of you may think of this as a SWAT team that we hear in the news, see other agencies. In our agency, we refer to them as our tactical response unit. That's made up of full-time members that do this part-time when needed. We have 12 positions. 6 of those are currently empty due to the turnover that we've experienced in the last couple of years, but we're in the process of filling those positions. Deployment of a SWAT team can sound like sort of an aggressive response. We think of armored type vehicles and rifles and armament. When we deploy our SWAT team, we base it on a matrix, a threat matrix, which is an industry standard. And we look at what we're dealing with, whether it's something that has come up unexpectedly or it may be a warrant. And based on that matrix, we decide whether or not to utilize our tactical response team. Our tactical response team is actually a de-escalating tool that we use. And that might sound counterintuitive, but when we're faced with something that's complex, potentially violent, instead of sort of dealing with it on the fly. This allows us to contain it initially with control, and then to take a little bit of a pause and to determine what do we have, how are we going to handle it. We call in the members of our tactical response team because they have training, specialty equipment, right down to their uniforms. So we're able to just pause for a minute and come up with a plan in dealing with it and try and resolve it as peacefully or with the least amount of force that we can. We're able to do that because they train 8 hours a month in tactics and response. They go to school, they go to seminars outside the agency to understand and learn best practices, new equipment, new methods. And so our tactical response team really isn't as much a use of force as it is a de-escalating process that allows us to deal safely for our officers, for the community, and for the individual. This may be a high-risk warrant. It might be somebody that's barricaded. We had one recently where we dealt with it and it ended very peacefully, something that initially we would have thought it was a violent situation and we expected that there may be violence involved, and we were able to pause, come up with a plan, and handle it, and the individual walked out to us. So our tactical response team is really one of those things that we use to keep everybody safe. Now I'll turn it over to Detective Lieutenant Cornelius.
This is probably going to be the best part. I'm Fred Cornelius. Like Mike said, him and I came up together, got hired the same day, 25 years ago, a week from Friday. It's going to be 25 years for us. Went to the academy together and kind of, moved through the ranks. We both took different paths in the sheriff's office, but it's been a good 25 years. Prior to joining the sheriff's office, I spent 6 years in the military, also as a police officer. Joined the military when I was 17. So my entire adult life, and even that probably wasn't adult, has been spent as a police officer. I have been in the Detective Bureau or the Criminal Investigations Division since 1998. I got promoted in 1998 when it was called Criminal Investigator. Back then there was like 3. Now we have 6 members in the Criminal Investigation Division. Myself is the lieutenant. I have 1 sergeant who works under me, and then 4 detectives. We handle a variety of things, kind of the normal things that you would expect a detective division to handle: felony investigations, major crime, everything from murders to rapes and burglaries and robberies and all of those things. We handle sex crimes, all levels of crimes of a sexual nature in the sheriff's office come to the criminal division. Narcotics and vice falls under our umbrella. We also handle the majority, if not all, of the crimes that happen in our jail. And that is a unique aspect of the sheriff's office and the work that the criminal division does. There are a lot of unique crimes that occur in the jail, with contraband and fights and assaults and different things like that. It takes up a good amount of our time. We are proactive about doing those kind of investigations. We work very closely with the members of the custody division to make sure that our facility stays safe and secure for everyone. The other thing that we do is really anything that we can to support our patrol division. Lieutenant Weller talked to you about the fact that we're down 5 positions right now. Well, we're down 5 positions. We also have 3 officers that are currently in the field training program. So that means we're actually down 8, and that's better than a shift. So if there's things that the patrol division needs assistance with, then we'll help with those. It doesn't matter the level of crime, if it's a misdemeanor crime or a felony crime, you know, whatever we can do to support that division, we do. I did the same thing that Lieutenant Weller did. That is image of the criminal division there that's completely candid. I just walk in there, I find them collaborating all together every day, all the time. I also oversee the identification division. The identification division is staffed by 1 sworn police officer. He's our identification officer, and he is responsible for a number of different things. The 2 primary things that he's responsible for is he is our evidence custodian, so he handles all of the evidence that comes in and all the property that comes in, and makes sure that we maintain that in the proper manner. And the other thing that he does is he handles pistol permit processing. Now, pistol permit processing probably takes up more of his time than the other stuff. We do a lot of pistol permit investigations, and he handles that just like a regular investigation, because it's a tremendous responsibility to have to be allowed to have a handgun carried around with you whenever you want, and we take that very seriously, and we do a thorough, complete investigation, pass it along to the judge for his consideration. I also supervise the records office, or the records section, staffed by 1 non-sworn member. She's right here. Yeah, she's up front helping us with the presentation today. She maintains all of the police records, everything that is generated by investigations or traffic work or anything else, and all the assistance that she gives to the pistol permit unit. She processes all FOIL requests, all requests for information that come into the sheriff's office, come through the records division. They get analyzed, they get approved through me, and then sent off to the county to ensure that we're in compliance with all the appropriate rules when it comes to FOIL requests. There isn't a piece of paper, or there shouldn't be a piece of paper, that is generated by the sheriff's office that leaves the sheriff's office unless we've tracked it and know exactly where it's going. And like I said, she spends a lot of time assisting the identification officer with his duties as well. One of the things that I'll mention is we did in an effort to assist the community and make things a little bit easier on people's schedules. We have opened up our office for pistol permit amendments and things a couple of evenings a week. So if you go to our website, you can get that information, and you can actually make your own appointment on the website. So moving on, I'm going to introduce Chief Custody Officer Elser. Talk a little bit about our custody.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the presentation. As you can see, I'm the youngest member of the administration. And it is true. I was honored to be called in by Sheriff Skane Under Sheriff Steve Smith, with the help of John Mack, approximately a year and a half ago. I got a call at the middle of January to come back to the sheriff's office for my fourth time. I actually started in the Cayuga County Sheriff's Office in 1976. I had a stellar career with the Cayuga County, or with the Syracuse Police Department, 20 years retired. I also have 7.5 years in nuclear security. But I've returned to the Sheriff's Department 3 times after my initial in 1976. I feel honored and I feel humbled to be here. But with that being said, I'd like to tell you a little bit about my position. And it's an administrative and supervisory position involving the responsibility for maintaining the safety and security of our staff, of our property, as well as overseeing the care, custody, and I highlight this, the well-being of our inmates in Cayuga County Jail. Our command staff works with a team philosophy. I just want to let you know, there's no I in team at all. And the command staff is here today with me, and I'm honored to serve with them. We have Division Commander John Mack. We have Operations Lieutenant Gary Dennis, and we have our Administrative and Program Lieutenant Dave Massey. So with that being said, I talked about team. And there's an acronym for our team. And basically it is, together, we effectively administrate and manage our operations in the jail. Now, how do we do that with the team philosophy? First of all, we share information. That's the most important thing. It's a communication line. Then we review the information. With that information, we collaborate in a meeting to discuss the options or actions to move forward with a positive outcome for all involved. We provide open lines of communication utilizing the chain of command protocols. And those chain of command protocols are, you have your line staff, your supervisory staff, your command staff, and then we work right up to the sheriff and undersheriff. And then in reverse, it works its way down. It's an effective form to follow in order for that communication line to stay constant and consistent. We also disseminate important information. We discuss ideas to promote and enhance our programming for the inmates. We do this as a benefit for the incarcerated and the community during the inmates' reentry after incarceration. One important thing that we do with our staff is we acknowledge any of their excellent and noteworthy work performance with commendations and letters of recognition. We maintain accountability for anybody that's associated with jail operations. And as the sheriff showed the mission statement, we're behind that 100%. We provide responsive, caring, and unbiased professional service within our custody division. I can honestly tell you that the sheriff and undersheriff are the most proactive that I've seen in the sheriff's office since I've served back in 1976. I think I've served under, how many, 5 sheriffs? They're so proactive with our philosophy. It creates a unique bond of understanding of our jail operations. We're also actively engaged, just like Lieutenant Cornelius said, with the police division side of it, because there are criminal violations that occur within the jail. And they also offer us support services that we need for critical events that occur in the jail. It goes without saying that we have an outstanding custody staff. It's comprised of men and women that are trained in unique and specific skills that maintain the safety and security of themselves, of the civilian staff, of the inmates, of the facility, and the community for which they serve. Our staff are dedicated men and women that have a very unique responsibility to perform. The jail environment is not a positive environment to work in. With that being said, our men and women perform their duties with respect and professionalism. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Before I turn this over to Captain John Mack for his very interesting commentary on jail demographics, I want you to know about the mutual remarks that we received from individuals, and these are individuals that come in as groups to our jail, or as business people to our jail, or as oversight people such as the State Commission of Correction that oversees all of the jail operations. The remarks that these people made are about the professional job performance of our outstanding staff. And here they are. These are actual quotes from people who come in. I feel safe when I enter your jail as a facility. It's quiet, it's clean, and the inmates seem to respect people walking through. Your jail is so clean. The facility is really clean and quiet compared to others that have been in. We get that quite a bit. I'm impressed by your staff, how accommodating they are. Your booking officers are always professional and very knowledgeable when we request information. So with that being said, it's our team philosophy that we strive to operate and effectively maintain the Cayuga County Jail in a very secure, safe, quiet, and clean environment for the safety of our staff, our inmates, and the community. With that, I want to say thank you for your time. I'm going to turn it over to Captain Mack.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Chief. For those that don't know me, I'm Captain John Mack. I'm a 30-year member with the Sheriff's Office, serving the county in the last 24 years as a supervisor with our agency. Our Sheriff's Office, we operate the Cayuga County Jail, which is maintained by the Custody Division of the Sheriff's Office. Now, the Custody Division oversees the 214 beds which are within our facility. And within our facility, that team consists of over 100 members. With those members, we have Chief Custody Officer, which is 6 sergeants, 9 corporals, and 78 line officers. And currently, we are right now have 78 vacant. I'm sorry, we have 8 vacant positions out of 78 officers. Our administrative team, we're pretty much managing a little city, what we do there. From health services and several other services that we provide to the inmates. But our team is also overseeing the business management. And some people are like, what type of business management would you have in the jail? Well, you think about it, running a business, you have to have paper, pens, supplies, hygiene products for the inmates. We operate a life services. So we have people that are there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, staying within our facility. So any supplies they need for medical, the cost of everything, we operate that with the business portion. The inmate management, Lieutenant Dennis will touch upon, but with the inmate management, certain requirements and needs of the inmates, different things relating to their custody and care, we oversee. We also have the employee management, which when you think of employee management, we still have to comply with state regulations, federal regulations, OSHA, training requirements that have been established by the state of New York or the federal government, items such as that, training, payroll, different things. So we also have the employee management. We also have the legal management. And the legal management is we have to know to stay on top of the laws as they change. Court decisions that come down, whether it's on a state or local level, those come into play with maintaining the operation of our facility. We want to run it by the law, the way we're required to and mandated to. We are a maximum security facility. And when you think of maximum security facility, a lot of people think of Auburn Correctional Facility. And as we know, it's right that center in our hometown. We also have Cayuga Correctional Facility, which is in the southern part of the county. That's a medium facility. Now, the Cayuga County Jail, not only do we house maximum, but we house medium. and we house minimum. And we house males and females. Now, you look at Auburn Correctional Facility, for example, that's a state-run prison. They house convicted felons that are males with a maximum classification. We house people in our facility that are there who are unsentenced. We have inmates who are also sentenced, being held within our facility. And we also holding pre-arraigned inmates who've been arrested and they're waiting to go in front of a judge to be arraigned upon their charges, which is something new, which has begun this year with the changing laws in New York State. Today, our facility, we have 148 individuals which are housed there. 132 of those are males, 16 of them are females. In the last year, I'm going to go back to 2019, we processed 1,386 individuals who were admitted into our facility. That's quite a bit. A lot of people coming through our doors. And we also, with part of that number, we also house in individuals from other facilities, other jails in the state of New York. People that maybe have to be protected by other individuals in their jail, people ways, are the people that have to be separate. Say somebody's a victim of a crime in their community, and some of the people who may have been the aggressors are within that facility. Sometimes it's better to get them away from there where they feel safer, where they can be managed. We house also, for example, Portland County Jail last year had to shut down due to the rain and the flooding of the facility. We actually, for a few months, actually kept several people from the Portland County Jail within our facility to assist another sheriff's office. We've also, part of our population, we house federal inmates. And the federal inmates that are in our custody come from the U.S. Marshals Services. So those who are in U.S. government custody, who are going through the federal trial process. We will house them in our facility. And we also house people from the Federal Bureau of Prisons. Now, I don't know if you guys can recall, a few years ago, Martha Stewart was in custody. Well, she was in a Federal Bureau of Prisons facility. We could have actually housed her in our facility if she was from our area. She was getting close with her time. So usually what will happen if somebody's in federal custody and they're convicted of a federal crime and they're serving time in a federal prison, if they get close to being released, sometimes what we'll do is we'll house them within our facility. We also, on some occasions, house military prisoners in our facility. So now, again, thinking about our facility as a local jail, there's a lot more that we do than just house people who are committed from our local courts. Now, with the military prisoners, that would be Fort Drum, people who violated military law. We've also housed war criminals in our facility. We had a Bosnian war criminal in our facility a few years ago who made not only local news, national news across the United States, but world news. He was a war criminal from Bosnia, where he was located. We've also had in our custody people who were suspected terrorists, South American drug cartel, and people who were directed to the mafia, mob ties. Whether we're convicted of their crimes or not, that's neither here or there for us, but we held them in our custody one time or another. Now, our facility that is overseen by our staff, we have 3 styles of housing in our facility. Most jails only have 1 style of supervision for housing. We have all 3 styles. And when you think of linear, is what you would think of like the cells in the barns. We have that, which is considered more of the older style, which is more or less used for classification. Sometimes for inmates who can't get along with others, have to be separated away. And that's where we'll place them in the linear style. We also have what's called direct remote. So the officer is right there where the inmates pretty much are, but they're remotely located. They can see through the windows, and they're watching, observing all the inmates. Our dormitory area is that style of supervision. We also have, which is my favorite, is direct supervision. The officer is right inside the housing unit with the inmates. He's right there on the floor with them. So he can better monitor what's going on, the activities of the inmates, the air of the room and everything, so to speak, where is everybody getting along and how it's going in there. So he gets a good idea on the atmosphere in there, so to speak. And We are overseen, as the chief mentioned earlier, by New York State Commission of Corrections. They are our oversight committee. They come in, they inspect our facility. And not only do they inspect our facility, U.S. Marshal Services and the Federal Bureau of Prisons. I am proud to say that one of the last times the Federal Bureau of Prisons came in, one of the inspectors who actually toured facilities in the Northeast United States commented as to how clean our facility was. Also commented that we had probably the cleanest facility in the Northeast United States. So I'm very proud of that, for everything our members have done to maintain that. And one thing I want to leave you with, our theory of operation there is make a difference. If we can make a difference in one person's life that walks into our doors, you think of the collateral effects that has not only to that person, but to their family, the community. And if you just make that difference in that one person, it just reverberates, and it could reverberate throughout the community. So that's one of the things when we have our training academies, one of the things I'd like to challenge our officers. Try to be that officer that makes that one difference in someone's life, because again, you never know what's going to happen or occur. Thank you. I'm going to introduce Lieutenant Gary Dennis. He's going to come up, talk a little bit more about our operation, what it entails.
How's everyone doing today? My name is Lieutenant Dennis, as it said. I've been with the department for about just over 18 years. I'm newly promoted to lieutenant just about a year ago. I've been a supervisor in the department for about 10 years. I'm going to talk to you today a little bit more in depth about the jail. Any of the police departments or any of the agencies, we're like the hub. With our admissions and discharge portions, our booking office. Any of the courts that are here, I know there's legislators, they call, anyone in the community calls about a question about an inmate, about their charges, about anything, that generally goes right to our booking office. And they'll give them the answers. They can tell them how long someone's in jail for, what their charges are, what they might, we can't give legal advice, but they can give them, like, you know, if it's a misdemeanor, how long they can be in jail for, that type of stuff. They deal daily, their phone rings nonstop. I can't feel bad for them. They're doing a lot of stuff in our booking department. They're also dealing with discharges as well. There's a lot of people in the community that don't have everything that they need when they're leaving our facility. And we're not located right in the center of Auburn either. We're in the outskirts. So a lot of times people are getting discharged. They don't have a way to get into the city. You know, if there's 2 foot of snow on the ground, we have to make those accommodations. We have to find a way to get them safely to where they need to go. Our classification process. In our facility, the captain touched on it, with our maximum, medium, and minimum classifications, we don't want to mix certain people together that have, you know, people that are more aggressive. We don't want to put them with the people that are more vulnerable. So we go through an extensive classification process. They're in our facility. We have our classification officer, Officer Davis, who's not here today, but he's probably the most important person in the jail. He's the one that keeps things as quiet as he possibly can. It goes into their criminal history. It goes into how they've adjusted while incarcerated, mental health issues, drug issues, anything like going through withdrawals, whether they needed added supervision or not. That's what part of our classification process. The captain kind of talked about our housing already. Based on your classification is where you can be housed in the facility. Again, we don't want to mix minimums with maximums. They don't get mixed together. And there's certain areas in the facility where a maximum classified inmate can't go. It's not designated for that type of classification. I'll talk a little bit about our CERT team. That's our Sheriff's Emergency Response Team. It's basically a tactical unit inside the facility. They are used when it comes to, again, comes down to like a situation where we're trying to make things as safe as possible. They also get additional training up to 8 hours a month. One of our main functions is basically cell extraction. We have to move someone from one area to another safely without them getting hurt, and then we haven't gotten hurt. I've been a member of the CERT team for approximately 13 years. I can't recall one time where an inmate has gotten injured during a move, whether they wanted to go or not. And we train to make sure things are safe. We use equipment that's safe. We use an emergency response belt, which it's a soft cloth belt that wraps around them, which is protected for them and us. The last part about this slide are grievances and complaints. Inside of our facility, the inmates have the right, if there's something they disagree with or that's wrong, that we're doing wrong, they have a process. We have a request form system where they can put any complaints on there and say, hey, I would like to go to medical services, anything like that. But if they're not happy with anything that goes on, then they're allowed to file a grievance. The grievance gets reviewed by us first initially. We have a grievance coordinator, which is Sergeant Silliman. He reviews it, gives an answer. If the inmate, if it's a complaint about medical, he'll, do an investigation, talk to medical, get a report from them. If they don't like it, it goes up to me. I'm the chief administrative officer when it comes to grievances. I review the whole scenario, all the information that he's gathered. I read the grievance, I go through that process. I make a determination. Mine's usually a fairly simple one because he's already done the investigation portion of it. I give them an answer. I go down and talk to the inmate, give their side of the story. If they don't like my answer, we send it off to the State Commissioner of Corrections. They have a policy review and complaint committee that oversees this whole process, and then they make a determination to us. And they come back and let us know, say, you guys need to do this differently, or they side with us saying the measures that we took were appropriate. This is kind of what the captain touched on too, with the little city that we work with inside our correctional facility. We have our own food service there. All the meals and everything are made right inside our facility. We have a whole kitchen area. Our medical staff, we have 3 nurses, licensed clinician social worker. We have a medical doctor that comes in. We have our dental services provided by, I believe, American Mobile Dental Services. They come in, they bring their own, basically a portable dental bus. They come out in our parking lot. We bring the inmates out, usually monthly, to get any dental work done. Psychiatric services are provided by Cayuga County Mental Health. We have an on-site licensed clinician social worker who works right on site. She's there Monday through Friday. We also have one mental health doctor that generally comes in, and one nurse practitioner. We have 3 maintenance employees that work four maintenance employees that work in our facility. They go from anything to fixing toilets to light bulbs to, demoing the whole room and rebuilding. They do a lot. Those guys are taxed. We do all the laundry services in there. Everything's done right in-house. Visitation, right now we have completely suspended in-person visitation at this time due to the coronavirus and social distancing. We don't have an area to safely space people out. We've taken measures because we don't understand communication with the families are important. We've given, the sheriff has approved 2 phone calls, 15-minute phone calls per week for everyone there, so they can reach out to their families for free. They're not, not paid telephone calls. We also give them 2 envelopes in paper, additional to if they have an indigent bag or whatever they want to buy on top of that. Shortly in the near future, we've got a training this coming, actually tomorrow. We're getting video visitation in our facility. That's getting pretty popular across the state. That's another program we're looking to implement to help people reach out to their families. Because it's not just taxing for the inmates inside our jail, also the families too that are missing their loved ones that might be incarcerated in our facility. That's all I have on jail services and stuff. I'm gonna turn it back over to the sheriff. Thank you guys for your time.
So as I said earlier, I worked my way up through the ranks with the road patrol division. So the jail was really something that was very new to me when I came into this position last year, but I really enjoyed getting to learn more about how jail operations work. I try to spend as much time as I can over there. And one of the areas that I'm really passionate about is our programming services that we have in the jail. We don't look at jail as just a form of punishment. We look at it as a place that we can help treat people, help people get back on their feet, help prepare them to get back out into society once we release them from our facility. And our goal is to work with this person that we're discharging from our facility and make sure they never come back. If we do that, then we won, if we can prepare them to be successful. And part of that is our programming. So we offer a lot of programming in our facility. We've added quite a few things and hope to add more as we go. Religious services, that's something that we've always offered within our jail. Our inmates do have access to religious services. If they practice a particular religion, we can give them contact information, and we have a number of providers that come into the facility and will help that person practice their particular religion. Addiction services, another area that I'm very passionate about. We offer a lot of services within our facility to help people deal with their addiction and problems that they might have. And that's an overwhelming number of inmates, unfortunately. But we offer services within our facility such as NA, Narcotics Anonymous, and AA, Alcoholics Anonymous meetings, so they can hold meetings right in the facility and hopefully prepare to continue on with those meetings and continue on a path to recovery when they get out. But we give them a jump start within our facility with those meetings. Peer counseling, we've introduced recently, we introduced peer counseling into our facility for addiction services. Peers are very important to somebody that's struggling with addiction and needs that help getting to the right place. We want to introduce them and build those relationships prior to them getting released from our facility with a peer who maybe has experienced what it's like or has been through addiction and understands and can help guide that person when they're released from our facility. So we partnered with Chad in Auburn, Confidential Help for Alcohol and Drugs, with some straight grant money that we were able to get from Oasis. We were able to bring Chad in to provide some peer support that we've had great success with, as well as addiction treatment provided right within our facility by addiction treatment counselors from Chad. And again, we don't want to wait until that inmate's released. We want to help them get those services and start that recovery process inside, and we're doing that. We also offer Vivitrol shots to inmates that qualify for that. And if you're not familiar with Vivitrol, that's a medication that blocks the need for somebody who's struggling with addiction to use opiates or alcohol. So that gives them one shot a month. Will reduce the cravings for the person. We start that from at the end of their term within our facility, along with the peer support, counseling, and treatment, so that when they leave, they don't have those cravings initially, and that helps them move forward with the recovery. The Thinking for a Change program, we partner with Cayuga Counseling Services to offer a cognitive behavioral therapy group and a treatment program for our inmates. The picture that you see there on the screen right now is one of our graduating classes. The undersheriff and I have actually participated with the groups in some of those classes. I've enjoyed that, jumping in with the inmates, but you can really see from the start, day one of that class to the end, where it really starts to click and the inmates start to learn that, listen, I can handle myself in a different way if I get upset or angry or something happens, so that I don't get myself in trouble. But they learn, we give them tools to deal with things in a different way. And it's just great to see that progression and watch them learn how they can do that and be successful. Educational programming, we do offer assistance for our younger inmates to get their GEDs, and we also offer some adult education programming. This is certainly something that I would like to see us expand upon, and one of those areas is job education. That's something that we're looking at potentially working with BOCES to partner on for some vocational training in our facility, and I'm hopeful that down the road we can make that work. We have had some discussions, and like most things, that when COVID came, it put a stall to that, but we're going to continue to pursue some of those things to help our inmates prepare for release. Narcan training. We found that over the years, a number of drug overdose fatalities have come from inmates who have left facilities, who go out and immediately use, and unfortunately have overdosed. So we try to prepare those that are addicted to opiates. We try to prepare them with Narcan training and actually give them Narcan when they leave our facility provided by the state. So they've got that training and the Narcan to use, and hopefully prevent those overdoses from happening. And I think we are having some success with that. And then finally, our work crew. We do have an inmate work crew that goes outside of our facility. You've probably seen them around, that works out in our community, oftentimes for municipalities, mowing lawns, or providing services such as painting buildings, or helping set up for events, that type of thing. That's a great program to help inmates learn some skills. And it may seem simple to us, but something as simple as mowing lawns or learning how to paint or doing those types of things. It's a great program. It gets the inmates out of the facility and provides a service that we can give back to members in our community. Continuing on, last year, we added a transition coordinator to our jail staff. I'm really proud of this position. Michelle Appleby, she's pictured there. She is our transition coordinator. And along with all the programming and training and opportunities that we offer within the facility, we also have Michelle there to help line up how that inmates transitions from our facility back out into the community. And things that you might not think of, but something as simple as having identification. A lot of our inmates come and they don't have identification or anything with them. They don't have any in their possession. Michelle will work with them to get photo ID prior to leaving the facility, or maybe a social security card and the things that they need so that they could potentially go and get a job after they leave our facility. She works very closely with CAP, Community Action Programs, to help our inmates with the transition. They will help us with clothing. A lot of times inmates may come in the summer with shorts, but leave in the winter, and they don't have the clothing that they need. CAP will help us with clothing and provide that to the inmate, as well as rides. CAP has been a great partner helping give our inmates rides as needed when they're discharged from our facility to wherever they might need to go from there. She helps line up social services assistance for an inmate. If an inmate is not in a position, doesn't have a home or anywhere to go when leaving, rather than just let that inmate out the door and wishing them luck, like we have done years ago, we're lining things up so they have a place to go as soon as they leave. And again, CAP helps us with the transportation. We've also added another option, Mixed Ride for Friends is helping us with transportation for inmates that are discharged that may need to go to an inpatient rehabilitation facility. Rather than discharge an inmate and hope that they get to that rehabilitation facility on their own, we're actually providing rides by partnering with Mixed Ride for Friends to have them picked up right at our facility and taken directly to that inpatient rehabilitation facility, so we don't lose them between the 2 points. That's been very successful. And dignity bags that we give the inmates when they leave with certain items that they'll need when they go. And finally, I would like to just say that the great community partner as it relates to this slide, Sue Dwyer and the Department of Motor Vehicles, her and her staff have been great helping us get identification for our inmates to line that up so that we have that when they leave. With that, I'll turn it over to policy and training.
It's me again. I want to talk a little bit about some of our policies and some of the and then I'm going to collaborate a little bit with Lieutenant Wellauer with regard to training aspect of things. So one of the things that we get asked about a lot and is kind of a topic that people are interested in right now is our use of force policy. And our use of force policy is it's fairly standard, but it is tailored to the sheriff's office. Like any other one of our policies, we will really review it line by line periodically, make necessary changes, and try and stay current with any legislation. One of the important things to know about any law enforcement use of force is it's based on the idea of objective reasonableness. And when you talk about objective reasonableness, you think, well, that could mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But as luck would have it, the courts have basically told us what that is. In a Supreme Court case called Graham versus Conner, they talked about the idea of objective reasonableness, and that in each situation that is, of course, rapidly evolving, and that we have to make split-second decisions, sometimes life or death decisions, we have to be making those decisions based on the idea of what is necessary and reasonable and at each and every stage of that encounter. The policy is written in recognition of the value of all human life and dignity without prejudice to anyone. Vesting officers with the authority to use reasonable force and to protect the public welfare requires a careful balancing of interests. One of the important things is that these situations evolve, and a level of force that may be required or authorized or reasonable at one stage of an encounter may not be reasonable at another stage of the encounter. You have to evaluate the whole totality of the circumstances as it evolves and as the situation progresses. Somebody who may be violent right now may be compliant 2 seconds later, and you need to make the adjustment to make sure that you're not using any more force than is required to perform your duties. You have to adjust to changes in the subject's level of resistance or aggression at every stage of every use of force encounter. There are certain things that you can't do. Some of them you would think would go without saying, but you got to put them in there. You got to make sure. You can't use force as a form of punishment. Somebody says something that you don't like, or somebody does something that you don't like, or you can't use force to then punish that person for that. That's not authorized or reasonable or necessary. Number two, you can't extract anything from any orifice of somebody by force, except when exigent circumstances are present. And I hope that never happens to me. You can't, and you would think that after all the time that has passed, like I said, you wouldn't have to write some of these things down. You can't use force to coerce a confession from a subject. You can't threaten or coerce somebody to have them say what you want them to say. It's just not appropriate. You cannot use force to obtain blood, saliva, urine, or other bodily fluid or cells from an individual unless, there is an unless you have a court order that directs you to do it. This doesn't happen very often. Occasionally, there may be a court order that says that somebody is required to give a DNA sample or something of that nature, that the courts would say we're going to get it one way or another. But in my 25 years in the sheriff's office, I think we've gotten one order that I can remember to get a sample from somebody, or maybe two, and we were able to talk to that person and get them to comply without any requirement of use of force. You shouldn't use force or can't use force against a person who's handcuffed or restrained unless it is used to prevent injury, escape, or otherwise overcome active or passive aggression posed by the subject. You have to be very careful. You've restrained somebody, that has to be considered when you're determining whether or not force is appropriate. And the use of chokeholds, strangleholds, lateral vascular neck restraints, anything around the neck is prohibited unless deadly force is authorized in that situation, because we have to consider that is, if you're putting pressure on somebody's neck, that is a use of deadly force, no different than using your gun. So that better be authorized in that situation. Another thing that's important when you talk about use of force and the appropriateness of use of force is there is many times more than one officer around when these situations arise. And any officer present has to know that they have a duty to intervene if there is a situation that evolves into a situation where more is being used than is reasonable, necessary, required. You have to say hey, this is enough, all right? They're required. We require them by policy to intervene. And not only that, but we require that you report any use of unreasonable force to a supervisor. And beyond what is required by statute or regulation, we also have written in that when you deal with police organizations, there's a pretty strict chain of command. You know, deputy talks to a sergeant talks to a lieutenant talks to a captain, and you stick to that. Except in a situation like this, we authorize you to deviate from that chain of command, jump a level of the chain of command. If I was doing something inappropriate, any subordinate of mine would be authorized, and not only authorized, but expected to go to the undersheriff or the sheriff and say, hey, Lieutenant Cornelius is screwing up. And that's a requirement, and it should be. So when you talk about use of force situations, you usually hear terms like resisting arrest or obstructing governmental administration. And those two terms are often used interchangeably when you're hearing about situations with law enforcement and use of force, but they're distinctly different. Resisting arrest, when you see that on an arrest report, that means that somebody has resisted the arrest of another person or themselves. You can be charged with resisting the arrest of somebody else. So there is that. Somebody has to be actively being arrested, and physical resistance has occurred in that situation. Obstructing governmental administration is when you prevent a public servant from performing a function that they're required to perform. Now, that doesn't necessarily have to be an arrest. It could be something else, but it does require a physical and active intervention in a public servant's duty. And you can, get arrested for that. Now, I can tell you that there is not a lot that we are prouder of in the sheriff's office than our people's ability to de-escalate situations and talk to people. And the reality is that the sheriff showed you the picture of the county, 79 miles from top to bottom. He told you that, and the lieutenant talked about the fact that there's one car that's covering half of that, and maybe the whole thing, because the state police may be tied up on something. You better learn to talk to somebody, because your backup might be a half an hour away in the county. So our personnel learn to talk to people and to treat people decent, and to know that force is the last resort. And this is proof positive of that, because since 2018 up to today, the sheriff's office has made 13 resisting arrest charges and 10 obstructing governmental administration charges. And that's based on about 2,100 arrests. 2,100 arrests, and of those 13, we charged with resisting arrest. And that is a testament to an organization that I am extremely proud of, because we teach people to talk to people and understand that, people are in bad situations, and we've all been there. So you gotta humanize things and have some empathy. And I think that, that this shows that we do that very well. The undersheriff's gonna come talk to you about some process on telling us when we're doing something wrong.
Oh, yeah. So we're going to talk a little bit about complaints and comments about our service. We can always do better. If we're doing good and we're proud of what we're doing, we can always do better. Something we didn't touch on that I want to throw in real quick is we recently, with the help of our legislature, been able to contract with Lexapol. It's a company that will help us review our policies. We have hundreds of policies and procedures across our agency, obviously multiple divisions, and there's a lot of policy involved. And it has come to our attention that obviously in the past year and a half, that it's nearly impossible for us in our small numbers to do a good, solid review of that policy as regularly as it needs to be. Lexapol is going to help us do that. It's an outside consulting agency, and their job is to review police policy, custody policy, whatever there may be that you're looking for, and help you keep up to date and do the right thing right along. So they're a group, they do this for about 8,100 agencies. So they're very versed in it. They're very good at it. They know what's going on in the world. They know what the laws and regulations, things change. They know what's going on. I believe Auburn Police has been using them for a while now. But like I said, thank you to our legislature for helping us get that on board. And I think that's going to be huge for us. So this is the complaint and comment thing. I mentioned the Lexapol because this is something that we want to continue to work in. We've got a way to do this, to file a complaint and to make comments about our services. But I really think that through that process, we're going to help standardize that a little bit and make it maybe a little more comprehensive. So that's something we're going to work towards. So as it stands right now, if someone wishes to make a complaint or a comment about our services, what we've done, we have what's called a citizen comment form that's been in place for at least 10 years. So basically, there's multiple ways of using that. You can walk into the public safety building and say, I want to make a complaint. You can get a form. You can fill it out there, speak to a supervisor on the spot, and discuss what happened. Or if you feel more comfortable, you can take that form with you. The address is right on it. You can take it home, fill it out, bring it back, hand it to the supervisor. You can mail it into us, and then it'll go through the process. We also, on our sheriff's website, there's a area for public comments. It's a feedback session. It's not identical to that form, but it gives the same purpose. We receive a lot of stuff through there, but one thing that you could be used for is to notify us that we need to do better. So you can do that online. And the other option is the one that happens most of the time is we get a call. We get a phone call from somebody, whether it goes to the 911 center or one of our supervisors, whatever the case may be. If it comes in, it's going to get routed to the most appropriate supervisor for that complaint, whether it's whatever division it is, whatever officer, someone in charge of that person is going to be tasked with looking into that. So when you do call in, or it goes to 911 center, it comes to the supervisor, they're going to actually fill one of those forms out. They're going to take that form and make that form, even though that you didn't do it, they're going to put the information for you. Once that's done, that's going to initiate an investigation, whether it's written, electronic, over the phone, whatever the case may be. That's going to start that process. This is generally going to be done by a sergeant, or it might be done by a lieutenant, depending on exactly what it is, severity, or other circumstances. The first thing that's going to happen, obviously, is if we haven't actually contacted or had contact with the complaint or the person that wants to talk to us, we're going to reach out to them. We're going to get the facts. We're going to find out all the information. They're going to do an investigation from that point, and then from there, they're going to back up and they're going to look at what happened. They're going to read the reports. They're going to do whatever is necessary to gain the facts of what happened. Investigate it. Once that's done, the supervisor is going to make a determination. Was policy and procedure followed? Was the officer reasonable? Did they do what they were supposed to? And maybe they may not have done something that's not really against policy, but maybe it's not the best thing. So we need to talk about that too. So they're going to use that to address whatever that concern is. If it's something of a very serious nature, or it's a real problem, and it goes to supervisor, that's gonna come to generally to the lieutenants, the undersheriff, the sheriff. We're gonna sit down and talk about that. Before it starts, we're gonna initiate an investigation, and it may go in two different directions. So we have internal investigations and obviously criminal investigations. If something we've done could rise to a crime, there needs to be that investigation as well. So if it's not serious, generally the sergeant's going to handle it, take appropriate action. If the complaint deserves some sort of discipline or something, that'll happen. Just as a talk with an officer to get them to do something better, it could be that. But it's going to be whatever is appropriate for the situation and by policy. Once that's done, the supervisor that's conducted that investigation is going to reach out to the person who initially filed that complaint or made that comment to us. There's some things that we can't share by law. We can't talk about certain things, but we certainly want to give the person the opportunity to know that we've looked into what they brought to us and make sure that it's done properly. Once that process happens, if I haven't been involved, the sheriff hasn't been involved in that at that point, and usually we're not. At some point, that form, the initial form, that the investigation that was done, works its way up through the chain of command and it hits my desk. My job is to review back through, look at the investigation, look that everything was put together by the supervisor and make sure it was all done correctly and thoroughly and that the appropriate action is taken. If I feel it's necessary, I could bring the sheriff into it. But all the way from the sheriff all the way down, we're going to make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to do. We're answering that problem. And just as an aside, before I finish up, I maintain all those files. I still have them. Going back prior to even I was the under sheriff, over the last 10 years, we average about 5 citizen complaints a year that we investigate. Some years more, some years less, but about 5 that actually have some sort of action. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the police training, and I think that's going to be Lieutenant Weller. Thank you.
Okay, let me just talk real quick about training on the law enforcement side. Apart from our initial hiring process, I think training is one of the most important, make sure I got the right slide up here. I think training is one of the most important things that ensures we have good, trained, qualified people out there serving our community. We can get somebody in fresh, no experience in law enforcement, and we can train them to be good police officers in the community. The initial training process for somebody hired is a 20-week police academy. We'll use any one of a number of academies here locally in central New York, and they'll spend 20 weeks, 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, learning all the various aspects of law enforcement, from the law and legal side of it to vehicle driving, interacting with the public, communicating reports, all of those things. So we have 20 weeks of training where they're evaluated on a daily basis by the academy. We have had times where somebody who's hired, gone through the entire background process, and then at some point in that 20 weeks, it's realized either on their part or on the part of the academy that they're just not cut out for this job. And that's okay. Once we get done with that 20-week police academy, our recruits now take 16 weeks of field training. They're placed with, actually over that course of 16 weeks, they'll be placed with 2 or 3 different field training officers, senior experienced officers who have been trained to be field training officers. And for 16 weeks, they're evaluated. Initially, they observe, then they transition into doing the job until that last couple of weeks where they actually do the job and the field training officer observes them. 16 weeks to on-the-job train them. Every single shift, they're evaluated. And once that gets done, they still have 36 weeks of probation. It's an 18-month probation period from hire. They still have 36 weeks of probation where they're evaluated every single month on how they're doing the job. Now, we're not just evaluating them because we're hoping to get rid of somebody. We're evaluating them so that we can come alongside them, encourage them, and help train them in those areas where they might need some extra work, pull them back a little bit in areas where maybe they need to have a little bit more restraint. But we're evaluating them for 20 weeks, 16 weeks, and 36 weeks, 18 months of daily and then monthly evaluation and training. It doesn't stop there. New York State requires us to have what I believe is 21 hours of a year of in-service training. We go well beyond that. The Sheriff's Office, training has been a priority. 8, 10, sometimes 12 months a year, we spend 1 shift a month in-service training. We cover topics like first aid. I mentioned to you AED, first responder, naloxone. We spend 1 shift a month making sure our first aid training is updated, our certifications are in place, and that we rehearse some of those skills. We spend 2 trainings, 2 shifts a month or a year, one in the spring during the day, one in the fall during the afternoon and evening at the range. It's not just using our firearms, but it's use of force training. It's state law, it's case law, it's Sheriff's Office policy, drilling into our members and ourselves those regulations and laws that we have to act on. We do other things like implicit bias training, de-escalation training. We have 10 members going to Ithaca next month for a live de-escalation training, in addition to the online stuff that we've done. A lot of our members, like I mentioned to you, have specialized skills that we utilize them for in addition to their full-time duties. Not only do they train on a regular basis, but we also send people out to training. Like I said, field training officers have specialized training. Supervisors are required 3 weeks of supervisor training in the first year after they're promoted. We have critical incident negotiators that not only train, but get specialized training to deal with that person who may be having a really bad day and has decided to barricade themselves in their home. Field training officer accident reconstruction. We investigate a lot of car accidents, and we have a team of folks and we have specialized equipment that allows us to investigate accidents, especially those that are more serious. Evidence technicians, we have a whole team of evidence technicians that can take photographs, fingerprints, process, much like you would see on the CSI show. We have that capability. And we have police instructors. We have a whole crew of officers who are trained to be police instructors that we utilize to instruct our folks. You see up on the slide here, we even use some of our county legislators. Legislator Kerr was, and I think Bill and Lisa actually came out and joined our active shooter training that we do every year. We did it here this past month, whereby we actually run through scenarios with our officers using the equivalent of like a paintball gun to run them through these shoot, don't shoot scenarios. God forbid if something were to come up. And we thank you for joining us. I know that some of you were there, and it's a real good experience to really understand how split-second decisions are made. If we don't train, our mind and our actions are muscle memory. And if we don't train and continue to train and continue, I mean, I've heard use of force training 25, 30 times, but that's why it's present in my mind. And then what happens is in a situation, when you are called to react, you rely on what you've been trained and what you've learned over the years. So police training is something that we put a tremendous amount of stock in. And like I said, we go well above and beyond what the state requires us. And we're going to turn over to Lieutenant Dennis, who's going to talk a little bit about the custody training portion.
I'm gonna be a little brief. A lot of our training mirrors what the police officers do. Ours is a little bit shorter in training than we do. Our academy is only 12 weeks long. We do a 6-week field training program inside of our facility. Our environment's a little bit more of a controlled environment than a police officer's. Our backup is 10 seconds to 20 seconds away, as opposed to 30 minutes. You're always learning in the job though too. It's not just the set mandatory state training that you're doing. You learn from the people you're dealing with, whether it's your coworkers. I've been there 18 years. I still see stuff that I never thought I would see, or stuff that's changing, and not all bad stuff too. I seen a brand new officer that was there for a few weeks. I see something they do. It's like, I've been doing this 17 years or 18 years this way. That's much better than what I was doing. You know, we always are training and looking to go through. We basically do the very similar use of force trainings that they do. During the academy, they do de-escalation, ethics, personal awareness. Special needs inmate is a big one that we work on. We're dealing with a very diverse population inside of a correctional facility. You're seeing people at their worst, whether they're coming off of a drug addiction or their mental health is not the best. And if someone's struggling with a mental health issue, and then you put them inside a correctional facility, that usually doesn't help their mental health issues. But we train to work with them and work closely with our counselors and stuff inside our facility. One of the big ones we do have for the inmate transports, we transport throughout the whole state. We transport for the marshals, we transport locally. We go to all different courts, we go to all across the whole state, our transport teams. They get a little bit more training. It's really very similar to what the road patrol does. Our training is very similar. We go above and beyond that training. So
I think that I'm going to finish our presentation here, and I appreciate everybody sticking it out with us. It's going a little bit longer than I had hoped, but we got a lot of ground to cover with our agency, so we'll get through these and hopefully have time for a few questions. But the next slide has to do with officer health and wellness, and I just wanted to make sure that we plug this in here because it's very important that we take care of the well-being of our officers in every division. We're asking our people to make split-second decisions, and we put a lot of weight on their shoulders, but the reality, they go out there and they see some things that are very difficult to deal with and very difficult to see, and most of our people will see more in a month when it comes to trauma in our community than most people will see in a lifetime. So it's very important that we work hard to help our members maintain their well-being and certainly their physical health. We started to do a lot more in that area to offer different resources for people. Our employee assistance program is certainly there, but we do periodically put the information out via email and to our staff to make sure they're reminded that they have those services there. This year we added 2 chaplains that are police chaplains that come into our facility regularly. They'll walk around and we're hoping to build relationships with our staff, because I know full well that a number of our staff members may not feel comfortable coming to me or a supervisor or anybody to tell them that, hey, I'm struggling, I need some help. But we want to encourage them to have somebody to do that with that they can feel comfortable with. And if that's one of our chaplains, they can do that anonymously with, or maybe it's our employee assistance program. We don't need to know about it. We want our people to be healthy. We want them to have the resources to make sure they're moving in the right direction to deal with those challenges. I know over the course of my 23 years, I've seen some very difficult things that for me to deal with personally. And I know that everybody sitting at this table and all of our staff have been in that same boat. So we need to make sure we're taking care of that and tasking our supervisors to keep an eye on our staff and making sure that they're okay. Our community partners, I just wanted to touch on those. There's quite a few. I'm just going to run through them really quick. Certainly the Auburn Police Department, the New York State Police, we partner with them often. Also our village police departments. We have village police departments in Moravia, Wheatsport, and Fort Byron. We work closely with them. Our community partners that are here today, the Harriet Tubman Center for Justice and Peace, the NAACP, and the Human Rights Commission. We appreciate our partnership with community outreach and the things that we've been doing here over the last 2 years. Cayuga County Mental Health, we partner closely with them. We have the social worker embedded into our jail. We also have a crisis intervention team outside our facility that we work closely with to deal with mental health issues for specific people that by collaborating, we can offer better services to that individual to help them get on the right path and give them the help that they might need. Community action programs, CAP, again, work very closely with them in the jail in our transition process, but they also have a domestic violence intervention program. They have advocates that help victims of domestic violence navigate their way through the system. We work very closely with them. We meet once a month. APD, Chief Butler and his staff meets too on those coalitions. And everything I'm talking about right now the Auburn Police Department is involved in as well. So we have a very good network of people that collaborate often. BOCES, we collaborate with them on our educational programs in the jail again, and I hope some additional vocational training in the future. Certainly our school districts, we work closely with them on different initiatives and concerns. Mixed Ride for Friends, the rides, as I mentioned, for transition services, and additional peer support. I'm not sure if I discussed that a minute ago, but we're partnering with them to provide additional peer support in our jail along with CHAD. So we'll not only have peers coming into our facility from CHAD, but also Mixed Ride for Friends, just to offer that additional resource. Cayuga Counseling, partner with them on our Thinking for a Change program, and they also oversee our Child Advocacy Center. So children that are victims of sexual assaults and that type of thing, we work very closely with them on collaborating together to bring everybody right to the same place to work on those cases, not in a silo, but we all work together as a team. CHAD, again, NA are volunteers that come in, and the Cayuga County Office for the Aging, we work closely with them. One program that I'm very proud of is our Project Lifesaver program that we partner with them on. It's life-saving equipment that can be utilized by a family member, maybe somebody that's elderly that might tend to wander, or even maybe somebody that has some type of condition. They're not elderly, but they tend to wander. They might get away from the home. We have bracelets that they will wear. And if they do wander away, we have specialized equipment that allows us to go out and track and find these individuals and determine where they are before they hurt themselves. So we've had some successful cases with that. And we do partner with the Onondaga County Sheriff's Office. They have a helicopter. They also have that equipment on their helicopter. So if we can't immediately locate the person, we can ask for assistance from Onondaga County to bring the helicopter up and look for that individual. That's just a few of our community partners. There are others, and we hope to build our base in the future. Community engagement, this is my favorite part of the job. I love this stuff. But so I wanted to point out just a couple of quick things here, kind of move things along. You'll see a number of pictures here for reading. We read to kids in different schools. Our inmate work crew mowing the cemetery. Sergeant Brian Myers fixing the mailbox. I love that picture. That's not something we're normally tasked with doing, but somebody's mailbox got wiped out. He took the initiative to fix the mailbox. That's what we do. Deputy Bain, somebody got stuck, so he put his whole heart into it. As you can see, he got good money there. But great stuff. That's the sheriff's summer camp right there. I posed with the kids that went to the sheriff's summer camp last year on Cayuga Lake. New York State sheriffs raise money for a camp that they own on Cayuga Lake. So every year, children that might not otherwise have the opportunity to go to camp get to go to camp. And as you probably all remember, the chief and I saved Christmas last year. We did catch the Grinch, so we might be doing the same this year if we see the Grinch again. Just a few more community engagement photos, not just people, but animals. Sergeant Myers helped get that cow back home. He told me that he actually played with that cow for about a half hour while he tried to determine where it belonged. But anyway, just some additional community engagement. That's our inmate work crew filling sandbags in Fairhaven last year when we had the flooding. This was a great thing that we were able to help with that initiative in Fairhaven, fill those sandbags to help the community have access to those. The inmate work crew, they love getting out there and doing that. They feel like they've accomplished something when they go out and help in a situation like that. So when those details present themselves, we're happy to do that. And at the bottom left-hand corner, we have Detective Stewart, Detective Benary operating a Safe Child program. Unfortunately, this year we haven't been able to do that much because we haven't had the community events. But that's a great program for kids. We take their photo, we get their information, and that's stored in a database. So if that's ever needed in the future, we have that. Executive Order 203, probably most of you are familiar with this. The governor issued Executive Order 203 earlier this year, and it basically mandated that any municipality look at how they provide police services in their community and collaborate with their community members to determine how they want to see their police agency look moving forward. And we have to go through that process. We're actually looking forward to going through that process. Chief Butler and I are trying to establish some meetings with our representatives right now so that we can form a steering committee and move that forward. And I know some of you that are in the room here today are already planning to be involved in that process, and we're looking forward to that. So some of the things that the order by the governor addresses, we need to look at these things. The items in green that are outlined in the workbook that the governor provided, a lot of those areas, the ones in green, we're already working on some initiatives or have accomplished those already. The one in red, the two in yellow, and some other items we're going to have to work at to meet those goals. But I think this is going to be a great way for us to reach out to our community and just ask and get feedback and say, what do you want your law enforcement agencies in Cayuga County to look like? So we'll be working on that in the near future, so stay tuned for that. Moving forward, we're looking at adding additional programming in the jail. As I said, these are some of the highlighted areas that I want to just point out. Continued recruiting efforts for staff in an effort to not only diversify our organization to make sure that we have qualified people moving forward. And that's going to include partnerships with members of our community and certainly the agencies that partnered with us today to host this presentation. So we'll be working on that moving forward. Ongoing training, as Lieutenant Wellauer said, very important that we're providing the right training, and we're doing enough of the training. So we're going to be looking at additional ways to provide more training in key areas, and partnering, collaborating with people in our community, and certainly connecting bridges. And most important for me is being true to our mission, making sure and evaluating that we're working and living up to our mission as we move forward, and certainly our values as well. And with that, I know I sped through that kind of quickly. I wanted to have a little bit of time for us to answer some questions that we can. I'm not sure, I just want to quickly, I'm not sure if we actually introduced Danielle Powers. I know Cornelius pointed her out, but she's been here passing out the question cards and taking any questions that have come in online. We appreciate her being here and the work that she's done. So I wanted to introduce her before we forget. And I do want to offer the ability, if anybody has some questions, I'll open it up to the people that are here present first. If you'd like to ask a question, we were hoping you might be able just to come over here to the right of me, just so that the sound will pick up for people that might be watching this virtually. If you'd like to ask a question, if you have a card and don't want to ask a question, you'd like us to answer something later on, we can certainly take your information and contact you later. But if anybody has a question and wants to come up, we would welcome that and start some discussion. Okay. Do we have, Joe?
How is the bail reform affected you?
Bail reform, we have seen a number of people that would have normally likely would have had bail put on them and come to our facility that are being released at court. So we have seen an impact with that. I can tell you that the numbers of people that we have in our jail as far as inmates go, it appears that we haven't seen a big change, but I think a major reason for that is that during the COVID pandemic, our courts were shut down for quite some time. And I think there's been a little bit of a backlog with some cases. So to get a real true look at what our jail is going to look like for numbers moving forward, I can't really tell you that we know exactly what that's going to look like with bail reform because our numbers seem to be the same right now. But again, I've seen many cases where in the past, I think we would have seen some people be remanded with bail that are not, that have been released back to our community. So it has had an impact, but as far as our jail numbers go with the COVID pandemic, it really hasn't changed our population count. Anything else? Trish?
With that bail reform, have you seen an impact on people in recovery? I've heard that time in jail, somebody time to drive out, quote unquote, and now they're really not going to jail. Time period is not happening.
So the question relates by legislator Kerr has to do with are we seeing an effect for people that are struggling with addiction when it comes to bail reform, and how is that impacting them if they're not coming to jail? This is an area that I really think that with our state legislature that we law enforcement professionals and people involved in this area should have been able to have some input, and I don't feel that we had enough input or any really, but people who are struggling with addiction, I would watch them prior to bail reform. They might be charged with a minor drug offense, but it's somebody that's continually using. And I'll bring up the fact that people using opiates, that's a very serious drug, and that next time that they use could be the last time. Prior to bail reform, we could charge those people with a minor offense. They might come to jail on a small amount of bail, and certainly we don't want to see anybody in jail. But in those cases, we were offering life-saving support for those individuals to help them get treatment, to provide all of the things that we provide, and try to get them on a path to recovery. Where now, if they're being picked up for a minor offense, they're going right back to using. That's the reality of that. And I think we need to change the way we look at jail. There are times when jail can be a great treatment tool. It can save lives. It can be a positive thing for individuals that are there. And this is one case where we've lost the ability to help people that are struggling in that area because the judges are not able to set bail and put them in a facility where they might get that life-saving aid.
I've actually spoken to a parent 2 weeks ago whose daughter was arrested, and she had a drug problem. And the father stated he wished that his daughter could stay in the jail. He knew that she would be helped there. I've spoken to another parent in the last few years here where the parent lost their child to a drug addiction and stated, I wish my child was in the jail instead of where they are now.
I think some lives could potentially be saved by having them in a safe, secure facility, offering them some treatment. So, we should have explored that a little bit, I think, before we did that. Any questions from the virtually? No questions virtually? Wow, we must have answered everything. Any other questions, Bill?
It's not a question, it's just a statement. I think on behalf of those of us who are here, on behalf of the folks who are watching this through some other means, I would just like to express gratitude to the command staff, to you, to the undersheriff, the captains, lieutenants. Thank you very much. I thought it was a very informative session. I think it was a transparent session. And in light of everything that we know is going on nationally, to be able to work with local law enforcement as we did a few weeks ago with Oakland Police Department, I think it is a major step in the right direction. And I trust we will continue to do that. But thank you very much for taking the time. It's appreciated.
Thank you. And I certainly want to thank everybody for being here today. Up on the screen right now is some contact information for us, certainly our website, our Facebook page, my email address, as well as my phone number there at the bottom. One major takeaway for everybody that's here present today and anybody watching virtually is you can contact us at any time at those with that information, and I will likely get back to you personally. I want to make sure that anyone in the public who has a question or concern can reach out to me. Just a reminder, you can obtain these slides again today by going to our website at cayugasheriff.com. And on the left-hand side at the bottom, you can print the slides, reach out to us if you have any comments or need anything further. I want to thank all of you for partnering with us in the work that we've done. I know we've got a lot of good things coming in the future too. I can feel it. And in closing, I just want to thank our staff. I want to thank our command staff. I appreciate you coming out and doing this with me today. And I also want to thank all of our staff that's not here, the 165 plus members of our sheriff's office that put their life and safety on the line every day. So I'm proud of what they do, and I want to thank them for the work that they do. With that, I think we can close. But again, if anybody has a question or anything following the presentation, please don't be afraid to reach out to us, any ideas, and let us know. We value our partnership with the community. Thank you.